This podcast has been produced by the Hoffa Foundation for entertainment purposes only. The contents of this podcast do not constitute medical or professional advice. If you are in need of help, please seek the appropriate professional advice and/or counseling. This podcast contains mature content.
We were just joking the other day because she's now 20, like her Dora the Explorer, freaking TV. Like I pawned anything I could of hers because all my stuff was gone. And I committed lots of felonies with her in the backseat of the car. I should probably be in jail the rest of my life, and she should have definitely been taken from me. But that God had a plan for me. I truly believe I had guardian angels throughout all this process, and a lot of the detailed stuff is in my book as well on the exact specifics. I mean, there's no way I should be alive right now.
Hello and welcome to the Sober Social, a podcast from the Hoffa Foundation and show about how you can live your best life sober. I'm your co-host Tom Herb and co-founder of the Hoffa Foundation. Our host and video producer, Adam Stoltz, is with us in spirit today, and I'm on a mission to make him proud by running solo. Hoffa stands for Healing Opportunity, Free from Addiction, and you can find more information at hoffafoundation.org. If you love what you hear today, please be sure to subscribe, like, share with loved ones and elected officials in your area. Leave a 5-star rating. We sincerely appreciate all of the continuous love and support. Our guest today, Honesty Liller, is a woman in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder since May 27th, 2007, and a certified peer recovery specialist in Virginia. Honesty is the author of Scattered Pink and is the chief executive officer of the McShin Foundation, a nonprofit, authentic peer-to-peer recovery community organization that serves individuals and families with substance use disorders. She is a recipient of the Vernon Johnson Award given by Faces and Voices of Recovery in 2015. Honesty was also featured on Face the Nation, Fox News, and PBS discussing addiction and recovery in America. In addition, she completed Stanford University's executive program for nonprofit leaders. In 2019, she was honored with the Gene C. Harris Community Service Board Award from Hanover County. WRIC Channel 8 News did a feature about Honesty for their Richmond's Remarkable Women special in 2020. She has been a field reviewer for SAMHSA, Faces and Voices of Recovery, and Capris. As a female entrepreneur, she co-founded Care Talks LLC. Honesty is able to be a voice for those with addiction and their families through the countless news articles, magazine stories, and TV interviews. To spend time with her husband, 2 children, and her 2 dogs is a gift that keeps on giving. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hoffa Sober Social, Miss Honesty Liller. Honesty, it's awesome to have you on today.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm ready to answer some questions and have a chat.
Absolutely. And I was sharing with Honesty before we got rolling here that how excited we are. Honesty's obviously our first female on the Sober Social. Absolutely. Go ladies. And so a lot of good stuff to cover today with the Honesty. And I wanted to start by acknowledging 5,529 days sober.
Oh, wow.
So I had to do the quick. Yeah, I had to do the math.
Wow.
Have the days.
Gosh, that's so long. I know I don't do the apps or nothing. That's cool.
Yeah. I was just, of course I had to do the 365 over 15 years. I was like, okay. And then the 54 more days and got to that number. And, so, obviously, you woke up today, every day that you get up, you obviously strut into the day and walk your day filled with purpose. However, there used to be a time where I'm perhaps, waking up didn't really matter, and so I'd love for you to share and with the folks listening out there, talk to us about that day, about those days and, what you do now to prevent yourself from going back.
Sure. So for me, I'm from a small town here in Hanover County in Richmond, Virginia. I started using drugs when I was 12 years old. Honestly, it was just really to fit in with the crowd, with specifically one girl that I was hanging out with. I don't know. I didn't have such a great childhood. It was a lot of dysfunction in our household. So back then, again, I'm 41. So it was a lot lenient times, I guess. No social media. We rode our bike to the country store, not feared of getting kidnapped or anything like now. But for me, it was just like I got to do whatever I wanted to do at a young age. So I decided to smoke weed and drink and take LSD, like normal 12-year-olds do. And from that, it just progressed like into this relationship, I guess, with drugs. Like I just wanted to, be in the in crowd. I went to a lot of concerts, a lot of Fish shows, which is like a jam band. I was a super hippie chick and I loved it. Like I loved smoking weed. I loved just kind of weeds from the earth. And I, fought all those battles back then. But I still did good in school. I still got honor roll. I still, did what I had to do as a human, as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old. I eventually went into a different crowd and started smoking crack and doing some cocaine and selling it when I was 15. And then when I was 17 is when I found my favorite drug of all, heroin. So the first 5 years was really just kind of going with the flow. I graduated high school when I was 16, a year early. I needed a full-time job to support my drug habit because my parents, my father worked, my mom didn't. So there was not a lot of money in the household. So there was only so many lies I could tell to get $20 from my parents when I was a teenager. So I just, got out of school a year early and then just fully got invested in the drug scene, like even harder. I swore I would never use heroin. I had already had a friend die an overdose of it and other friends that were using it and getting in trouble with the law and all of that. But I'll never forget the first day I used heroin. I was smoking a jum, which is, I don't know what they call it now, but it was a blunt with weed and marijuana and crack in it. And on my mom's front porch, they were like, just do it, it'll make you not, we called it geek, be paranoid off of the crack and you can come down quicker. So I did heroin that first day on the porch. I literally fell in love. I don't know what triggered all my opiate receptors in my brain were like, wow, this is amazing. My first set of opiates, I got a car accident probably about 6 months before that. I was the only one that really got injured. So I got on pain meds and I did love it then, but I was so scared. I loved opiates, but I was so scared to use it because my friend had just died. We were actually in a funeral procession of one of our other friends. That's, how we got in the accident. It was a mess, but when I found heroin, I don't know. I just felt warm. I felt like I didn't have to be a human. Like I just was there. And in the beginning, I didn't use it every day. I mean, I was 17 years old. I was living a life that, my son now is 13. My daughter's 20. Like I couldn't imagine them doing the things that I did. Like my son's smoking crack right now in our house. Like I just couldn't imagine. And I was doing all of that. Right. And from, I don't know, I can't remember all the months, but maybe 6-8 months into using heroin, I overdosed. So I was at a party, I overdosed, and all this is in my book too, but I overdosed, and I got brought back to life, with Narcan. And so when you're 17, you go to the hospital, they have to call your parents. So that's when my parents and family found out I was using drugs. So I hid it pretty well for 5 years. I mean, my daddy really wasn't home. Come to find out years later, he had my little brothers, which is a godsend. We adore them, but there was just a whole kind of, I'd say, Jerry Springer situation going on. So that's when they found out they didn't know what to do. This was forever ago. Now there's so much treatment for addiction, obviously, but back then it was buprenorphine. I got shots in my butt. And the doctor told us about 12-step Narcotics Anonymous meetings. So my now stepmom, then dad's girlfriend, was the first time I met her, was through this process. And she took me to my first Narcotics Anonymous meeting. Granted, I was 17. And back then, that was 28 years ago, whatever. I don't know the math, but there wasn't all these young people there. It was all old people. I was like, I'll never get down with this. So I only went to a few meetings and then I started using heroin again, within weeks of that detox and that overdose and getting brought back to life. And throughout that process of heroin days is what I call it. I got addicted pretty quickly. It wasn't just in the beginning, it was just kind of the weekend or, whatever, but I went straight full blown stealing, robbing, doing all kinds of stuff as a woman to get money. Very young age. I mean, very, very young on, and never could keep a relationship. The relationship with heroin was more important than any type of relationship in my entire life until I found recovery, obviously. But, you know, I don't know. There's something about me that's and many, many thousands, hundreds of thousands of humans out there that we love opiates, and we love the feeling of it. We do not like being dope sick, though. That is a nightmare and pure hell. But through that process, I was about 19. I met a boy. He was 17. I could get heroin and he couldn't. And then we hooked up and then we stayed together for 6 miserable years. That was the longest relationship until recovery. It was really more of like, I guess it was more like a partnership. It was like, someone to commit crimes with, someone to steal with, to lie with. And then through that, we did make our daughter. So my daughter, got developed and made in this process of our heroin addiction. And I was on a methadone clinic, I don't know how many times trying to get into recovery, or I didn't even know what recovery back then. It wasn't just really recovery. It was just detox and treatment. Those two words were used so much. And, with that came a lot of still lies and drama and stuff. And when I found out I was pregnant with her, I was at the methadone clinic and they wanted to mandate me until she was birthed. And then my smart thinking was like, I didn't want to put drugs in my body. Well, I left and I was using heroin within days. So I used my whole pregnancy with her. She was born in, they call it now withdrawal from heroin. So she was in the hospital for a couple weeks and I was treated like crap, which was fine, I guess, at the time, but nothing could stop me from using heroin. Like even a baby growing it, or children are gifts from God, they say, and I couldn't stop using them, jumping out of windows, being chased. It was just a nightmare and a mess. Because I did not care. I would get dope sick immediately as soon as I did heroin, because the baby took the heroin. So I would get mad at my stomach. It was a nightmare. And a lot of that's in my book too. And it's taken a lot of healing to heal myself from that. But after I had her, they mandated me to methadone or they were going to take her. So I got on methadone, but I did every other drug. I was on paper. I was beautiful methadone patient. I brought in fake pee constantly for 2 years. And I used every other drug. The methadone, basically for the most part kept me stable off the opiates. I mean, it definitely made me high in certain times a day and stuff like that. And then within a week after graduating on paper from that program, her biological had heroin in the house and I found it and I used it in the bathroom that day. So 2 years of trying to not try and recover. You're mandated to, go to a group, sign a paper, talk to your therapist. I lied, fake pee, all of that. And then it was like 5 more years of using heroin. And my daughter, unfortunately, she was part of all of that. She got drug around to places I should not have taken her. I got a ton of money from, her birthdays. I pawned, we still joke about it today. Her Dora the Explorer excuse me, can I cuss?
Yeah, you can, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, because I'm very authentic.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, let it rip.
We were just joking the other day because she's now 20, like her Dora the Explorer, freaking TV. Like I pawned anything I could of hers because all my stuff was gone. And I committed lots of felonies with her in the backseat of the car. I should probably be in jail the rest of my life. And she should have definitely been taken from me. But that God had a plan for me. I truly believe I had guardian angels throughout all this process. And a lot of the detailed stuff is in my book as well on the exact specifics. I mean, there's no way I should be alive right now. And, through all of that, I ended up, my parents, once again, she was about 4, they did a medical detox. It was like $4,000, this rapid detox here. I did it completely wrong. I was still using heroin. My baby daddy was sneaking it to me. So it was still like all this stuff was being paid for and given to me, like, just get treatment. We want you better, be a mom to your, daughter. I mean, I had her when I was 21. I was still a child myself, basically. But again, the life that I led, I had to grow up very, very quick in the lifestyle that I was living. So they shipped me away. I woke up in this place in Winchester. I love it. I do account like learning my first really education on recovery was in that program. But after I woke up from like my brain like went backwards, the doctor said, because they give you all these benzos and they shoot you up with Narcan that fourth day. Oh my gosh. I mean, the stories my family tell me, because I was so they told me all this crazy stuff I did. But anyway, fast forward, they dropped these people, my parents dropped me off, and within a few days, like people were telling me, you need to leave, her father, you need to, how they say in treatment or recovery, like you got to be alone, you got to work on yourself. So I left him over the payphone, walked outside, saw this boy playing basketball. Now, 6 years, mind you, of a miserable relationship. Basically, I made a beautiful daughter. And then I fell in lust immediately with another boy, like at that treatment center. And that in itself comes with a lot of damage and a lot of low self-esteem and just so much stuff. I never got the chance, because I fell in lust. So it wasn't love. It was definitely lust immediately, that I didn't give myself a chance to even really recover or even attempt to recover, because I came back to Richmond, and then he wanted to move in here. So he did. I got a sponsor in 12-step. I got a home group in 12-step. I ran that past my sponsor. She said that probably isn't a good idea. I heard, hell yeah, do it. So he moved in. I don't know. We went to meetings, 12-step meetings for like a month or two. So that was like my first time in 13 years of me, actually being completely drug-free besides cigarettes. And he stopped going to meetings, so did I. Long story, we started using behind each other's back, and then we started using. That was the worst year. So out of my 14 years fully, because we used for like a year together. Oh my gosh. And it's in my book and you can read it, but it was the worst year of the stuff I did to my body, my soul, my daughter, my family, and everything. It was just, I would just immediately, like, soon as I shot heroin again, it was just like, not even starting over. It was like fast forward like 10 more years of using it. It was like the quickest, fastest progressive of my addiction the whole time, because I was so hated myself so much for using again. And I had such low self-esteem already about the stuff I had already done. I never healed through that process. So once you start using again, it's like for me, it doubled, tripled up, because I was never been able to heal all those years before. So then, yeah, we used for about a year. And then that's when I found the McShin Foundation. John Shinholzer, the co-founder and president of McShin, he knew my stepmom, which I call her my mom. She knew him from years ago. And I came to this building. I'm at McShin right now. There's my little McShin sign. This is my office. The other side is pink, my color. But I came here, I was high. I don't know. He tells me all these stories. I was high. I left for a few days. I came and moved into the house. He could get, he told me he could hook me up with the doctor, because when I'm in withdrawal, I'm a psychopath. I am literally will cut you myself. I physically violent when I'm going through withdrawal. We call it dope sick. Like, I'm not a good dope sick person. My husband has my boyfriend is now husband, but plenty of stories. But I ran down this road after like a day, because my then boyfriend came here and he could get $30. So we left for like 4 days. John finally did hook me up. I didn't have the medicine the day I came here. And if I don't have that medicine for detox, I'm going to shoot dope. So I ran down this road and packed up from the female house. And then that Sunday, May 27, 2007, I walked into this little doctor's office. It was a Sunday afternoon. And he gave me medication, Suboxone, and I took it out of my mouth, and I was going to go home to Adam, my then boyfriend, and we were going to detox together. How many times we said that? But the doctor was like, I'm going to stay there for 4 hours with you. And I was like, what? And it was like melting. Back then, it was like this chalky stuff. Now they have that wax looking stuff and shots and all kinds of, they got all kinds of stuff for opiate addiction right now. But back then, so I looked up to God, looked up to my hand, I put it in my mouth, the medicine, and I let it That was my first day of recovery. The day before was my last use because I was dope sick when I went to his office. And then I moved into McShin the next day, May 28, 2007. I broke up with the then boyfriend on the front porch of the girls' house is right down the road. That's why I keep pointing there. But broke up with him. And my plan was to detox. To be honest with you, I was going to stay like the 10-day to detox, take a shower and eat because I wasn't doing either of those. My daughter had already been left with my biological mom because I couldn't feed her, take care of her. She was definitely in the way of my addiction. But something magical happened here at the McShin Foundation, living with other women like me. John, it was just John and this man named Daniel and no women staff. And back then, recovery is booming with women. Now, 15 years ago, there was not a lot of women in 12-step either up in here. So it was like, John, like if you know John, he's a Marine, he's in your face, he's like, sit down, I'm going to help save your life, which he does. But me being a brat and thinking I had all the answers, we butt heads a lot. I cried all the time. And then that week turned into months. I lived in the female house for 5 months. Daniel Payne, the then executive director, hired me, gave me a chance. He let me nanny his 1-year-old when I couldn't even take care of my 5-year-old. So and that's the key to recovery is like giving someone a chance, right? And I was cleaning houses. John taught me how to paint houses because he's a big paint contractor before he started McShin. So it was just like that recovery movement, just one person in recovery helping the other. And then after 5 months of living here, I got my daughter back. She was 5. And my older sister, Harmony, let me and Destiny, which is my daughter, live with her. And then I just paid her rent and McShin hired me after I moved out. So I was 5 months in recovery, had no idea what I was doing. Besides, I wanted to give back to the women that were living in the house. Back then, anyway, where you want to start? We had 2 recovery houses. I mean, actually 2 male houses, 1 female house back then. So it was hard. It was a struggle. I was 26 years old and I didn't know what to do with life, let alone how do I stop using drugs for the longevity. Like I knew I would drink again eventually, like because it was legal. Well, it still is, but like stuff like that. I was like, okay, I don't want to use heroin again. I do, but I don't want to die. I do, but I don't want to be dope sick. Dope sick kept me my first year in recovery. I'll be honest. They said to hold on to something. And I know it's a little selfish. It wasn't really me or my daughter. It was never to be dope sick again. And this is I share this all the time with people. And it's like, I never want to go through that feeling again. And just the stuff I did to get money, like even $13, the stuff that you have to do. So that started my employment here at McShin. I knew a little bit of like Excel and Word and John and Daniel, God bless them. They started this organization, but there wasn't much paperwork or like anything. And we only had 3 houses back then. So it was a lot less people. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into recovery.
Thank you, honestly. And it's interesting because when you throw that question on the table about like share your story, I mean, you're trying to think you got so much you want to share, and you gave us like a snippet into it, but you gave the folks listening to this and will watch this later, creating that curiosity. We're like, I want to know more. So of course, therein lies the whole book conversation that we'll go through, where they can learn more about your story. Couple things. One thing that you'd shared, you mentioned with your kids 13 and 20, you never could imagine them, smoking crack in your house. And like, for those that have been through the trenches and have gone through a lot and have, said everything you've done, I've done it 10 times worse, right? My daughter, I'll tell her, look, Kobe, listen, whatever you're going to do, Dad's probably done it, a lot different, a lot, whatever it is. So just be honest with me. Right. But that's where I'm going with this is, there are, I'm sure, going to be mothers, fathers listening to this, watching this, that maybe didn't go through the things that, you went through, and, some of that knowledge that you're only going to understand if you've actually been there before. And so, for them to have that same feeling, like they never could imagine their kids, doing something in the house or just doing things in general, what would you tell them? Like, what were some things that you could say, hey, listen, like, if I'm in your shoes, obviously you want to be aware, you want to be educated, but what else do you share out there with parents to ensure that they can do the best, to their ability to make sure their kids are doing the right thing?
Sure. And again, like today, my kids are being raised in a social media world. So like I had a beeper back in the day. So I was like the beeper era, the Zach Morris cell phone. But and I tell parents all the time is, look, you got to have and everyone that knows me, everywhere I speak, I'm very authentic. It's like, you got to have conversations, no matter what they look like. I had to learn early on, I wanted to control my daughter. She's now 20. She's definitely drank. She's told me all kinds of stuff. I honestly just don't even want to know. But then I look at my story, I'm like, well, that ain't nothing, compared to what I live. But and we've had that from the jump. Yes, we do. And my husband, I didn't say that he was the boy I met in treatment. So we've been married for years and been through a lot together. And that's in my book on marriage and all kinds of stuff that can happen in recovery. We're both drug free, but stuff still happens with humans, and how you get through that as a woman is another plug for the book. But I think the biggest thing that I see is, like, we never, like, to our kids said, just say no. Like, we never, not just say no, but like, you're going to get in trouble if you do drugs. Or we share the realness of, like, people die, like, in these pill parties and everything that's going on in 2022. These kids are throwing pills in a bucket, and you pick one, and these kids are dying. They're not just getting high, it's fentanyl now. So it's a lot different from when I was using. I knew I was shooting heroin. Now you don't know what you're shooting. It could be fentanyl and you die. But the conversations that you have, and I've had with teenagers here, the parents will drop them off and sit out in the hallway and, like, have conversations. It's not about judgment or you suck as a child, like, you're never going to go anywhere with your life. Like, the scare tactics, I guess, just never really worked for me and so many countless families that I've helped throughout all of these years. It's more of like, okay, if you're at a party, like I told my daughter for years, like, if you're at a party, and someone is saying, take this pill, like, you got to be understanding, like, it could be a drug that could literally kill you, not just F you up, like, kill you. So having those conversations, whether you're in recovery or understand addiction by any means, it's like, it's the reality of the world right now, which is very sad to me. And then, like, she got caught with alcohol once in her car. So we took the car for 30 days. She was like 16 maybe, but the phone, oh my gosh, you would think we were killing her. Like, the phone was like, we only did 2 weeks with the phone because we were like, she's a monster. Like, what is going to happen with this phone? Right. So it's like, you still need it. I'm not saying don't discipline your kids, but it's like, have conversation, not just, well, what the hell, why'd you do this or whatever. It's more of like, okay, this is your punishment because you understand this is against the law and this is scary. And then I go into the stuff with her, like, as a woman, under the influence, what things could happen to you, and stuff like that. But I think parents need to have conversations constantly these days because it's so much on social media with the Snapchat and the buying of the drugs and all these, like, emojis and stuff. And, like, people don't realize what they're buying because it's, again, a totally different world from when I was raising my daughter. My son, they're 7 years apart. So my son now, he's 13, he's complete sports and fishing. So he has a ton of activities, but also we keep it real up in our house. We're like, bro, like, if anybody, happens to give you a pill or something, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? So, like, I think it's okay to have that door open instead of, Sally, if you smoke weed ever, we're going to take your car. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. So that, like, gives them, and it may work for kids. I'm not a kid adolescent, like, psychiatrist. I've just seen the humans that come through McShin and getting to know their stories. A lot of that scare tactic just doesn't work. They think, our kids think they know we're smart and stuff, but they think they have the answers, So my son, like, him and my husband are fun. Like, they'll, like, about fishing. Well, I saw this on YouTube, and my husband's like, well, this is old school. So it's even like it's fishing, you know what I mean? So just keeping that door open for your child and, like, not having judgment and, like, trying to guide them as a human opposed to discipline and making them obey. It's more of like, I want my daughter to be able to call me and my son, you know, if you're too drunk or something, like, I want you to call me or your aunts, because we've had all these conversations throughout the years, someone to come get you before something bad or before you get behind the wheel. So the expectations I had to let go on her specifically and let her make her own decisions really helped my mental health, because it was for years that I want to control her. Like, I'll be honest and upfront. I wanted to control her. I did not want her to end up like me. I mean, now I'm awesome and I rock, but I didn't want her to have to go through all of that stuff as a woman. And I tried to control her, and it was just slapping me in my effing face constantly. And now it's like, she's 20, she's going to nursing school, she's got a job at the hospital, and I still track her on Life 360. She doesn't care. Like, she don't care, you know? So, but that has helped our relationship so much, and healing is this kind of like keeping it real, you know, whether you know about it or not. It's like your kid, you're the guide, because this social media and TV and everything is already guiding our kids pretty crazy, reality to everything. I'm not like sitting here bashing, it's just our world. So you need to be the adult and the human in the situation to be able to, I always say, just a beautiful open door for them to come to, right? And they might still look to social media and their friends and people they're hanging out with, but for you to kind of understand and really get educated, like really what's going on. And there's a ton of information on Samsung, on our website, everywhere that you can get educated on like what's going on, you know, and whatever age level, because who would have thought I would use drugs at 12? I mean, my son, I just still taking bong hits. I couldn't imagine walking in his room right now and taking bong hits. I still call him mommy's little sweetie. He's going to be, I'd say, you're going to have my portrait on your dresser when you get a sports scholarship in college. So, yeah, but keeping it real, you got to.
No doubt. Thank you, honestly. You know, it's interesting. I call this thing, you know, the remote control to our lives. I mean, this really is, to your point, you know, you and I back in our day, it was, you know, the beeper and the payphone, and, you know, we didn't have the Life 360 app, and we didn't have Snapchat, and we didn't have, you know, a lot of the things that happen today, all this technology. You know, you probably hide a lot more back then than you can now. I mean, people have camera enabled devices in their house, and, you know, you feel like you're always being watched. But like you said, I mean, the biggest thing that's out there right now for parents, and I beat on this drum time and time again, do not turn your head to it, is the fact that, you know, fentanyl is in everything. It's all over the place. And it's sad to see these stories in the news, whether it be a professional athlete, most recently in Baltimore, or some other places where it's just like people just, you know, think they can cross that line, and, you know, the worst case scenario ends up happening to them, you know? So yeah, thank you for sharing that honesty. And so, you know, obviously, you're in an amazing position as a leader of McShin. And, you know, what I'd like to know is who inspired you to be a leader and why?
Gosh. I mean, I would be remiss if it wasn't John and Carol. I mean, I never knew and we were just, I was thinking about, I would try to reflect as much as I can on a day-to-day basis, but really big reflect, because John just won this award yesterday that I nominated him for, a Visionary Leadership Award. And listening to him accept that award, he is the biggest visionary I think I will ever meet. I'm the implementer, he's the visionary, and I'm the one that has to figure that shit out. But you know, John and Carol from the jump, like Carol really taught me how to be a lady, you know, and how to, like, you know, respect my body, respect myself, you know, how to articulate and how to talk. Not that it was like these big lessons and she sat me down and we had tea and all of that, but really how to learn how to love myself. So Carol McDade is the biggest, probably as far as humans that I know, female, would be the female version. And John, for sure, from the beginning to still now, his leadership qualities, I've never seen someone as smart as him, and constantly, no matter what we battle, still get up. He's a Marine, and we are well aware, he likes to tell us that every single day, but constantly get up, you know, and keep battling. But I mean, if you go back, like Marty Mann, you know, was awesome. She kind of was one of the first female to speak up about Alcoholics Anonymous and being an alcoholic. So, you know, people like that really inspire me to like continually use my voice. But I definitely would have to say John and Carol as far as like the closest connection to me as far as leaders and, leaders in this movement, but not just that, but just leaders as helping humans in general.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I see it almost every day out there in the business community, business leaders, what they're dealing with right now after, still navigating through the pandemic.
Yeah.
The folks that report into them that they have to lead and coach and mentor and guide every day are struggling right now. Mental health seems to be one of the biggest topics in the workplace. And so, tell us about that, what you're seeing out there, honesty, and how you deal with those conversations with your people, perhaps.
Well, how I personally, as I exercise, I run, I'm obsessed. I got a Peloton this past year and I'm obsessed with Peloton, everything. I do their running apps. I just did all this stuff yesterday. But so my recovery has evolved throughout the years. I was hardcore 12 step for the first 12 years. And then now I just do a tiny bit of 12 step and more of like holistic and exercise and mind, body, soul work, journaling, writing my book, stuff like that. But here, so we haven't closed since COVID, March 2020. That didn't do nothing really to us besides more policies, lots of sanitizer, masks, all of that. McShin was the only one, I think, in the state of Virginia that stayed open as far as treatment recovery, because addiction didn't stop. It actually got 1,000 times worse since COVID. But for us and our staff, is fun wellness days. We do Wellness Wednesday. We have fun activities every quarter. We do a fun activity outside of the office, mental health days, mandated vacations, all of that, but really just being taking care of my mind, body, and soul so I can show them. It took me years, probably a good solid 10, to figure out really what self-care was, because you hear it, you go to workshops, sure, that sounds great, but I have 500 grants or whatever to do. But I think I'm pretty damn good at self-care now. Like I can honestly say that I do get overwhelmed still. We do have a lot of projects going. But it's important for me to show them as a leader to take vacation, to go to Dave Matthews tomorrow, Friday, do certain things that I commit myself to. And then our people. So our people, we've incorporated a lot of more holistic. So it's not just groups and 12 step. We have smart recovery, Buddha, all kinds of all that, but it's more also like me and the girls are going whitewater rafting on Tuesday in our program house. We have a 1 male, 1 female program house, and we have 13 sober living. So 15 houses total, which is a lot. I mean, we actually got three or four houses since COVID. So, because it's so many people that need help now. So I'm pumping out grants, donations. We do get funding from the state from BAR now for indigent housing. So that's super crucial and awesome. But really leading by example in all areas. The way I parent, they know my children and their activities are super important. My son made, he was on 2 baseball teams at once. He made all-stars and they made it to the state championship, but lost the state championship. But it was during the weekday. It was really weird. We were so used to going away to tournaments, but it was during the weekday. And I told, like, my work's going to get done. Y'all don't need to worry about me. I'm going to my kids' game. So it's important. And like, if their kids, like, because with the school, all that stuff that happened, we have an alumni room that has a TV, so Netflix and all of that across from my office. So some specific staff have younger kids, so we just have them up in here. We bring your kid to work for a week if you had to. We just try to make this not just a safe place, but a fun place to work for sure. We definitely have a lot of fun and laughs. It's just every day is a little different around here because the participants are here every day too. Most of them work, but the program houses. So I think the biggest thing about being a leader, I can talk all day self-care, but if I'm not doing it, it's just like a child listening to you. If I'm not, behaving the way I'm supposed to behave as a human and my son sees me, how many times I got to make amends with my son for how much time I want to freaking ram people on the road, or whatever, I'm a human. Just because I have all this recovery and I'm a leader and all of that, it's still like, okay, I'm going to be put in a box and never do wrong. Like, that's just not reality, but I know how to work through all of that. So I instill that in our staff here, specifically the women, especially the women, because it took forever to get I want to say I worked here for maybe 3 years until we got another female staff. So I was around like 5 men. Back then, again, we were smaller. Shit. So now we have at least 10, I think. Now we have about, it isn't half, but it's getting close, like a female staff now, which is awesome.
That is awesome. And you know, modeling the right behavior, you know, the whole actions speak louder than words, like as the leader, because there's leaders out there that will obviously try to promote and get people to do things, yet they don't do them themselves. And to see you taking the time, you know, to prioritize with your family, your own self-care, the Peloton, like those things are very important, you know. And a sign of a good leader is always when you do go to the All-Star game and to Dave Matthews, and the operation still runs. And so, you know, you being able to do that just shows that, you know, your leadership skills have certainly impacted others on the team. Now, if you go to take off and you get those bunch of phone calls, people don't know what's going on, then it might be, you know, an opportunity to make some things better. But that's it's amazing that you do that, honestly. I'm curious, you know, women in leadership, in my opinion, is paramount to our future. You know, again, raising a daughter, want her to be a leader one day as well. And would love to know from your point of view, what are the benefits of having women in leadership positions?
Sure. And specifically here, because we have John is a male, I am underneath John, and then we have Jesse as a male, he's COO. So it's our three, we're the executive team. And I hired Jesse like 4 years ago, which has been a godsend and beautiful for my life. That's why I can go to Dave Matthews, to be honest. But I think as women, we just I know I bring a different perspective on like how they work, because Jesse's kind of HR and really kind of black and white. John is the Marine, kind of get it done, let's go, you know, and I'm kind of like, okay, let's all just sit for a second. How are we going to pay for this? How are we going to staff this? How are we, you know, so it kind of just gives us a different offset of how we lead. We all kind of lead the same, but we definitely bring different qualities. Because I can kirk out and get a little hot in those executive meetings as well, because we meet every week. Us three meet every Monday at 1, as long as all three of us are in town. So we do that every single week. It's imperative, it's important. But I think I just bring a different a flair to it as far as like ideas and how to implement things. I don't have to really ask to do anything. I just do it, you know, at this point. Unless it's like a big major decision, obviously I go to our board of directors, but me and John really co-lead. He's really trying to take a little step back. He's going to be here a few more years and then, well, he says, and retire. So we're working through all that right now. There's some stuff in my book about me and him had to go to therapy. So I just think it was like a mediator, but I think it was a crucial part in our relationship, and it helps like 1000%. You know, I just think a woman should have a voice, you know, in every table. Why the hell not? You know, I mean, and it took me, to be honest, and this is in my book too, but like, it took me years, and I guess stand up to John, you know, it took me years to really come into my own, because he had so much recovery. He's you know him, he's a very dominant force of energy. And it took me a long time. I just kind of did, you know, what he told me to do. And then I slowly started, you know, advocating for myself and in decision-making processes. Now it's like, you know, golden. And I've been the CEO for 9 years now, though, but 2. And, you know, people look to me as the leader, not just the female leader, you know what I mean? And that's not yay me. It's just, I've worked my ass off to get to be this voice and be able to not only lead as a woman and a female, but show the other females here that they can do it too, and mentor them. One of them, she's like, you're a whole vibe. And I was like, well, don't say that. And she like pressured, she's like, you are a vibe. You don't understand. Because it's not that many, obviously, female leaders. I know it's getting better. But in this space, it took a long time too, in the addiction recovery space, for females to be, I mean, there was a few like Pat Taylor and a few for years, but it was all normally men running organizations like this.
Yeah. So what would you say like the biggest barrier, the most significant barrier would be for women to, you know, get into a leadership type role? Like maybe your own experience or what you're seeing out there?
My own experience was not advocating for myself early on. I kind of just bit my tongue because I didn't feel like I was smart enough. And I felt like I was going to get overpowered either way or told no. And being silent doesn't help anyone, but also being loud sometimes doesn't either, but being educated and articulating what your needs are, not necessarily your wants, but you need a raise because you did this, this, and this, or you need this project, or you need another female staff here to assist you. It's more of like, it's personal, but it's also for the whole mission and the whole organization at large. Because if I have 800 job roles, the mission is going to eventually fail and burn out and get fizzled, because I'm going to just eventually leave because it's just a detriment to my soul. So I think the advocacy piece for me took me a long time, and just speaking up for what is right, but also know what you're saying. So I've been in a lot of meetings with a ton of people throughout the years, and even myself, like, oh, I think I know that, should I say something or should I not? But when I really know, I definitely share my voice. And there has been times that throughout the years that I thought I knew, and I wanted my voice to be heard because I was trying so hard to like be a female leader, that it was like, not that I was dumb or didn't know 100%. I just wanted to be heard. So I failed at that sometimes. And I think also as a leader and a female, it's like, it's okay to fail and make fun of yourself, but learn about it and how you can better yourself from, I don't really like to say fail. I don't even know why I'm using that word, because I don't ever use it, but more of like challenging yourself on decision-making that you have had in the past.
Absolutely. And that's a great way to put it, honestly, because, it's interesting, like, whether one, excuse me, under the spectrum, not saying a word, like just, waiting for someone to tap you on your shoulder. Other end is like yelling from the mountaintops and just being super loud. And then kind of like in the middle, like you said, it's being relevant. And when you're relevant and you obviously have the education and awareness and the passion around what you're bringing to the table, I mean, that stands out above all. I mean, people can usually tell when you're in a conversation, okay, this person really gets what they're sharing right now. They're knowledgeable. They've got the facts, the figures, and the numbers to back it up. And, to have that type of stance, I think, male or female, that's where people that want to pursue leadership, need to be, and good listeners as well, for their people.
Yeah, so, I know I got elephants, big ears, small mouth, all on my desk. I don't work that perfectly, but I try.
No doubt. No doubt. So, you've obviously have shared a lot of good things, and we mentioned it earlier. Some of these things can be found in your book, but many things you haven't shared yet. People that want to find out more, they're going to go pick up your book. And so the book, Scattered Pink, it's only been, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only been out for 5 months, right? Since February. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the end of February. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, 5 months probably feels like, it probably feels like a couple years right now, doesn't it?
It's a lot of work, dude. I mean, it is. I didn't know what I was really, I don't know. It's a lot of work, but I've had a lot of cool people that have helped me, whether they know it or not, through the process for sure. So, but it
Absolutely.
it's another job. Yeah.
Yeah. I see you out there. Podcasts, interviews, the book signings are incredible. I, of course, you gave me these 2 copies. I read one, gave both them to my mother for her to read one, and for her to give another lady in our community as well that has an addiction organization. And so it's an awesome book. And I'm not going to, share any insight, because there's some things in there that, although I will bring up one. I saw you put a post about this too, the how you're never going to eat a zebra cake again.
Oh, God, no, never.
Yeah. Those things are good too. Yeah.
Gosh, well, I lived off of them. And then now they have ice cream, Little Debbie ice cream, zebra cake. I'll never, and I don't like saying never, but I can honestly say I will never eat one. That it's trauma. It sounds weird, but it's very traumatizing for me. Like I can even taste it right now, as we say. I just lived off the big ones. Yeah. Yep. Zebra
I can taste them too. That white icing, you bite into it and it's like, I'm telling you.
No.
Yeah. So, it's, tell us about the book, just where people can pick up the book, anything else you want to share around it. And then, also I'd like to know when you're going to be releasing your next one.
Oh gosh. Next one, no time soon. I've been having some ideas. I kind of want to do a children's book, to be honest, for like kids when their parents are in treatment or in jail or something like that. Like it's not, I don't know, it's not your fault or something. I don't know. I've just been thinking that's been heavy on my heart. But the book you can get on Amazon, you can get at Barnes and Noble. Everything's online. Again, this was like a little side hustle. I kind of wanted to put a little money away for like vacation and my daughter's wedding. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm not in like super big stores. I do have book signings in stores and stuff, but it's really those two main places, bookshop.org that donates to a local independent bookstore if you buy from them. So yeah, if you're ever at McShin, you get a copy. I give them away all the time here, but yeah, and Recovery Fest, September 10th is McShin's big event here in Richmond. So I'll be doing, I don't know if I'm gonna be signing them because I'm gonna be running around like just running around at that event. It's gonna be so big this year. Y'all should come. But I'll have some books there September 10th too. So.
And that's September 10th. That's on a Friday, correct?
Saturday.
At the Saturday?
September's a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan and Mobilize is coming the 16th or whatever, the Friday after Recovery Fest.
Okay.
So
all
two
right.
big events in not even a week.
Yeah. Well, we will definitely put it in the calendar for sure because we love everything that you all do at McShin and love participating in some of the events that y'all have. So I appreciate you honesty being on here today. I can't thank you enough. Your story obviously is incredible. You're an amazing leader, no doubt about it. An amazing mother, coworker. I mean, I could go right down the list, and I'm sure many people that watch this and listen to it will be impacted by it, and certainly be able to better themselves and others because of it. So, thank you very much for joining.
Sure. Yeah. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honesty.
If you'd like to learn more about the Hoffa Foundation, you can do so at hoffafoundation.org. That's HOFFA foundation.org. Email info@hoffafoundation.org. Or if you're in need of assistance, please call 866-577-9810.